morning, Kennedy Dragons. Today is Wednesday. It is February the 16th. It is the 115th day of school. I'm Mr. Butcher. It's my job to keep you guys safe so you can show us how excellent you can be. Hopefully you left your average at home or on the bus and you are ready, which means being in the right place at the right time with the right stuff. To have a respectful, which means treating others the way you want to be treated. And responsible, which means doing your job with a smile on your face and giving perfect every day. Ready, respectful, and responsible day. Speaking of responsible, our first responsibility that we have every day is to be ready to show respect for the rights that we have in this country. We do this by daily saying the Pledge of Allegiance, our school pledge, as well as doing our moment of silence. When we do our pledges to show respect, we stop what we're doing, stand up tall, put our hand over our hearts like this. We say the pledge loudly, clearly, and with pride. If you guys would please stand for the pledge and remain standing for the Kennedy School Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for the Kennedy School Pledge. I pledge myself as a Kennedy Dragon to be ready for the day ahead of me. I'll be respectful of myself, my teachers, and all others I meet throughout the day. I promise to be responsible for myself, my actions, and my learning. I'll work my hardest to be the best dragon I can be. Our second responsibility is to keep each other safe by slowing down the spread of germs. We do this by frequently washing our hands. When we wash our hands, we want to use soap and water. If we can't get access to a sink, you can always use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. That will be sufficient. When we wash our hands, we want to get all parts of our hands, the palms of our hands, the backs of our hands, in between our fingers, our fingertips, our wrists, and our thumbs. When we wash our hands, we want to make sure that we are washing for at least 20 seconds. Let's model what good hand washing looks like now. Get the palms of your hands. Get the back of your hand. Get the back of your other hand. Get in between your fingers. Get your fingertips. Get your other set of fingertips. Get your thumbs. Get your other thumb. Get your wrist. And get your other wrist. And now your hands are nice and clean. Alright, now that we have washed our hands, we've done our moment of silence, it's time to get started with our day. Happy birthday today to Logan Campbell. Logan Campbell is 10 years old. We'll make sure that you get your birthday ribbon. Our next responsibility is to make our lunch choice. Our lunch choice today is beefy mac and cheese, which is just like hamburger helper, garden salad, vegetable medley, which is just 3 vegetables all stuck together, broccoli, cauliflower, and carrots, and sliced peaches. If you don't want beefy mac and cheese, you can always get PB&J or yogurt and muffin. We are still in the month of February, and February is Black History Month. Each day during the month of February, we will bring you some interesting facts about a famous African American who had a huge impact on our country and our world. Today's African American of the day is Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson is most famous known as a baseball player who broke the color barrier. Jackie Robinson was born January 31st, 1919, and he was the first African-American Major League Baseball player of modern times. Robinson broke the color barrier, baseball's color barrier, also known as the color line, when he debuted with the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947. He was the first black man to openly play in the major leagues since the 1880s. He had a big role in bringing racial segregation to an end in professional baseball. For 60 years until that point, African Americans could only play in the Negro Leagues. Robinson's character and skills made people think about the usual bias of segregation. Robinson and his abilities contributed to much of the civil rights movement. Major League Baseball recently retired the number 42, which is the number Jackie Robinson wore when he played for the Dodgers, in all baseball teams. No one can wear that number again. Here's our picture for the week. Of course, we do the picture of the week for a vocabulary lesson as well as a writing activity. Today, you're just going to look at it. We're going to be asking you for nouns and verbs and adjectives and prepositions. Nouns, of course, are persons, places, things, things that you can see, feel, hear, touch. Verbs are words that show actions. Adjectives and adverbs are words that modify. Adjectives just modify nouns. Adverbs modify verbs, adjectives, and other adverbs. They are things that tell us a little bit more about the nouns. What kind, which one, how many, to what extent. Time for our message of the day. Today's message is on diversity, uniqueness, and tolerance. Two nouns. The world is full of all kinds of people. Look at the picture and some people need glasses, some of those great vocabulary words. Some need hearing aids to hear. Some people get around in wheelchairs, and some need canes to walk. Some people use their fingers to shape the words they speak. Some people are very short, and some are very thin. Some have missing teeth, and some have missing arms or legs. So yes, we may all look very different on the outside, but on the inside, there's something that we all have in common. We all want to be loved in just the way we are. No matter how different someone else looks to you, remember this: look past what's on the outside and find out what's on the inside. With something to think about, I'm Mr. Butcher. Make today your masterpiece or not. Remember the choices. All right, so if you are required to wear a mask, like on the bus, or if you've been you're quarantining at school because you've been exposed to COVID, let's make sure that we model how we put our masks on and wear it the right way. Put it on over your nose, your mouth, and your chin. Make sure it's tight around the ear so it doesn't fall down. You guys have a great day. That is all we have for announcements, so please help me.
Me and your teachers keep you safe. That is our job.
And your job is to help us keep you safe.
And you can help us by being a ready, respectful, and responsible student who is focused on graduating in the year.
Because when you are a ready, respectful, and responsible student focused on graduation, you are fully committed to student success. I love you very much. Have a great Read aloud of the day. Remember, in the month of February, every book that we read is got an African American author or a African American as the main character, because we're celebrating Black History Month. So today's book is Little Melba and Her Big Trombone. The author, the person that wrote the words, is Catherine Russell Brown. The illustrator, the person who drew the pictures, is Frank Morrison. As I read, I'm going to try to model what good readers do, which is to read the words fluently, which means I'm going to read them correctly at a good pace, not too fast, not too slow, and with expression. And as I read, this is a great time for you to practice what good readers do. They listen as they're reading, whether they're reading in their head or they're listening to someone read. They're listening for the story elements, the character, who or what the story is about, the setting, where and when the story is taking place, and the sequence of events, what happens first, next, and last. They're looking for problems and solutions, and they're asking themselves good questions. Why did this happen? How did it happen? What's going to happen next? So here we go. Little Melba and Her Big Trombone. Spread the word. Little Melba Doretta Liston was something special. The year she was born was 1926. The place was Kansas City, where you could reach out and feel the music. The avenues were lined with jazz clubs, street bands, and folks harmonizing on every corner. All the hot music makers made sure they had a gig in KC. A gig means it's the time where they play, like a show. From as far back as her memory would go, Melba loved the sounds of music. Blues, jazz, and gospel rhythms danced in her head. The plink of a guitar, the hum of a bass, the thump-thump of a drum, the ping-pang of a piano, and the tremble of the sweet horn. Notes stirred and rhythms bubbled all through Melba's home. She couldn't get enough. Music was always on her mind. She daydreamed about beats and lyrics. Music was on Melba's mind at night, too, when she should have been fast asleep. So Melba's always thinking about music. Her house is full of it, and she's always thinking about it, even dreaming. Melba loved to hum along with the radio. Sometimes the music sounded so good she cupped her ear to the majestic and closed her eyes. She especially loved Fats Waller and his growly voice and booming piano. The player piano came alive when Melba's kinfolk stopped by, while Melba pedaled her aunties while Melba pedaled, her aunties danced around the room. Look at them go. These are great pictures. With all that music flying by, Melba wanted to create her own sounds. When she was 7 years old, she decided to sign up for music class at school. What instrument could I play? Melba wondered. At the traveling music store, Melba eyed a long, funny-looking horn. That one, she cried. It's beautiful. A trombone? Mama Lucille frowned. It's big and you're a little girl. Please, Melba begged. Mama Lucille bought the shiny trombone on the spot. She couldn't say no to her only child. Melba beamed from ear to ear and squeezed her newfound friend. That night on the porch, Melba listened to Grandpa Joe play his guitar. This time she had her own music maker. Grandpa John, showed Melba how to cradle the horn. She tried to push out the slide, but her arm was too short. She had to tilt her head sideways and stretch out her right arm. Melba gave the horn a mighty blow. It sounded bad, like a howling dog. I'm no good, Grandpa, Melba said, tearing up. If you can blow, you can play, Grandpa John said. Now stand up straight and blow steady. Melba stayed up real late and practiced until she could play a simple tune all by herself. Even with her keen ear, teaching herself to play the trombone was no piece of cake, but Melba kept blowing her horn, getting better day by day. The cool brass of the horn felt swell on her fingers. Before long, Melba and her horn were making magic. She was only 8 when the local radio station invited her to play a solo. Mama Lucille and Grandpa John were so proud as they watched little Melba play her big trombone. Hard times hit rock bottom in 1937. That's when Melba and her mother moved to Los Angeles. The long train ride took them 5 states west and worlds away from Kansas City. Melba's new teacher discovered that she was as smart as a whip. Her test scores were so high the principal skipped her from 6th grade all the way to 8th. In high school, Melba joined Alma Hightower's famous after-school music club. Melba quickly became the star player in the club's band, the Melodic Dots. The other club members struggled to keep up with Melba. Jealous boys called her bad names. She tried not to care, but way down deep, the names hurt her. Melba used her horn to turn all those hurt feelings into soulful music. Melba's talent kept growing. She began writing music too. Then in 1943, when she was 17, Melba was invited to tour the country with a new band led by trumpet player Gerald Wilson. Go meet the world, Mama Lucille said, and hugged Melba goodbye. You have my blessing. Melba could feel it in her bones. The jazz scene was calling her name. Traveling with the band was a thrill. Each city, from Salt Lake to New York, was an eyeful of something new. Melba became a master musician. She composed and arranged music, spinning rhythms, harmonies, and melodies into gorgeous songs. And when Melba played the trombone, her bold notes and one-of-a-kind sound mesmerized the crowd. Still, Melba was lonely. She was the only woman in the band. Some of the men were cruel. Others acted as if she wasn't there. Melba let the music in her head keep her company. Rough times came when Melba traveled down south with singer Billie Holiday and her band. Some white folks didn't show good manners towards folks with brown skin. Hotel rooms were hard to come by, and the band members often had to sleep on the bus. restaurants didn't always want their business. In the clubs, audience sometimes just sat and stared at the band, or they didn't show up at all. Discouraged, Melba almost walked away from her trombone for good. But Melba's fans wouldn't let her quit. By the 1950s, all the cool jazz musicians wanted some Melba magic. Dizzy Gillespie, Duke Ellington, Quincy Jones, and more. They wanted to be on the bandstand with Melba and her divine horn. They wanted to play Melba's music. Melba and her music trotted around the globe, dazzling audiences and making headlines in Europe, the Middle East, and in Asia. All her life, Melba kept composing and arranging music, kept making her trombone sing. Spread the word, Melba Doretta Liston was something special. Little Melba and her big trombone.